Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ask Jeffrey Live. We actually have been looking forward to this quite a bit. And so here today, we'll be here every Friday at noon Central Standard Time to answer any of the questions that you have. So if you log in, then you're able to type in your question below, and I look forward to having a conversation with each of you. Now, you can also email. You can also email at askjeffrey@jeffreyfortexas.com, or you can go online to our website at jeffreyfortexas.com and do the Ask Jeffrey section, or you can do it right here by writing in a comment. So let's go ahead and begin. I do want to let everyone know that on Monday, December 4th, at 10 a.m. in the morning, me and my team will all be down in Austin because we are filing the paperwork to officially be on the ballot. So that's going to be an exciting time, and we look forward to that happening. And then next week, I'll also be in Burleson County and surrounding areas. So if you're in that area, please visit our website, jeffreyfortexas.com, and find out exactly where we're going to be, because I look forward to meeting each and every one of you. Now then, we're going to start our first round of questions and just get right into it. So let's see, our first question comes from Natalie. She is from McKinney, Texas. Natalie, thank you so much for reaching out to us. Her question is, would there be something else in place of the Robin Hood Act to help benefit those Title I schools? What will be your plan to make sure that all schools have an equal playing field? I grew up in the Valley and now teach in McKinney, so I see the differences between a lower income school and those that live in a more affluent area. And how can that affect education? So Natalie, that is an incredible question, because I have promoted that we needed to do away with the Robin Hood program. And here's where I'm coming from. What we need to do when we do away with the Robin Hood program is those property tax rich areas will then be able to capture their money for their area from the individuals who live in that ISD or in that county. And they can actually then, if they're collecting too much, lower their property tax for the individuals who live in their area. For those areas that are property tax low, what we can do as the state, and what we should be doing as a state, is funding those areas so that they are actually receiving the same investment that the more affluent areas are receiving. Now, how do we do that? And that's always the big question: how do you fund education? Well, what we have to do is we take the property tax loopholes that large corporations have, and we close those loopholes so that we're able to collect the fair tax from large corporations, which will then fund education like it should be funded. And what we have right now, unfortunately, is a system where individuals are paying too much in property tax and large corporations are not. And so what we do is, when we close those loopholes, big business is then putting the revenue that they need to be investing into our children. Because let's face it, our children are going to replace us one day, because we all plan on retiring at some point. And big business needs to understand that by them making an investment in our children, they are actually, it's part of their responsibility actually, and because they need to be that conduit in that investment. So knowing that, and knowing we can close those loopholes, and also returning the educational system back to the professional educators. That's what they do. That's what professional educators do. And we need to take it out of the legislature's hand and allow those within the industry, which is education, actually take control and teach our children rather than teaching to the test, as some say. So thank you so much for that question, Natalie. And if you have any more questions about that, please let me know, and we'll touch on it again. Thank you again. All righty. Our next question actually comes from Josh. He's in El Paso. Thank you, Josh. And let's see, how many dogs do you really have? Okay. As many of you know, Sergio and I actually rescue dogs, and we have 11. Now, we had 10 last time I went out of town. And when I was out of town, I suddenly received a text message from Sergio with a picture of a dog. And we went from 10 to 11. So we actually have, I believe it's 8 miniature dachshunds. We have 2 schnauzers. I'm sorry, we have 7 dachshunds. It's hard to keep track. We have 7 dachshunds, 2 miniature schnauzers, an American bulldog, who is the new one. Her name is Stella. And we have an Alaskan, and I'm going to ask, my staff is sitting right over here, and I have to ask what type of dog Foxy is. Malamute, an Alaskan Malamute. So you would think I would know what kind of dogs I have, but you know, there's so many. I call them by, it's just like when parents have a bunch of children and they call their children by a different name. You know, I'm the same way. I yell at one of my dogs to do something and I'm yelling at the wrong dog. So, but yes, we actually rescue or adopt dogs, and we're dog lovers, and we always have been. And so, yes, Josh, I do have 11 dogs. So, all righty, moving on. Let's see. This one is from actually an avid hunter in West Texas. And his question, or her question, because I just know it's an avid hunter, could be either a male or a female. What's your solution to gun violence? And do you plan on taking my guns away? Yes, that is a great question. It is a highly false narrative that because I'm a Democrat, I want to take everyone's guns away. And that is not true. I personally have a gun, and I'm not a hunter. I will tell you that. I have a gun for safety reasons. And everyone has a gun for different reasons. You know, some are hunters and some just do it for protection. I support that. I support gun rights. However, I do believe that we need to close some loopholes, such as the ability to make everyone that buys a gun register that gun. We need to do background checks as well. And we also need to know that when one individual sells a gun to another individual, that it is being registered that a gun has been transferred from one individual to another. That way, we as the government who is responsible for the safety of our citizens knows when a gun has been transferred. And we can also, by doing that, know who is maybe stockpiling guns. I do believe that we need to also restrict military style weapons, but at the same time, it's the genie is already, military style guns are already out there, and not all of them are registered, unfortunately. And so, if we outlawed them in the state of Texas, how do we? I feel that the responsible individuals within our state would, of course, if they're outlawed, get rid of their guns. But then those who are not responsible would not. So with the genie already being out of the bottle, how do we put the genie back in? And that's going to be a very difficult solution to come to. We're going to need the help of the federal government as well. But there are certain things we can outlaw, such as military-style guns, bump stocks, etc., for future. But how do we go back? And that's going to be where myself as the governor, our lieutenant governor, and legislature sits down and decides how we're going to move forward with this. But I think the first thing we need to do is make sure that we do background checks for everyone who obtains a gun. And on a side note, you can't speak about gun control without also speaking about funding mental health. And we keep defunding mental health, and you know that is something that we truly need to actually fund, so that when a family has an individual with, that they know of, or friends have another friend that they know of who needs that assistance, that they know where the resources are. And that is the only way that we're actually going to be able to truly help those who are in need of mental health resolutions. And so we need to fully fund it, and then that way, and then educate people about where to get mental health services. So with that said, I believe it is truly a multifaceted answer, and it's going to really take all of us sitting down and putting our heads together to make it happen. So thank you very much. But again, I want y'all to know that other than the military style guns, I'm not here to take your guns away. I believe that hunting in Texas is a tradition. It's been for generations, it's been a tradition, and I support that tradition and continuing it as we go forward. Pardon me. Now, I just want to give a reminder, feel free to question in the comment section that's below. And because right now we're taking also email. If you want to email Ask Jeffrey at jeffreyfortexas.com. And so either the comment section or send an email. Most of what we're getting is through the email, and that's great. So either way is fine with me. Let's see, Sergio. Sergio Garcia. Okay, he asked the question. My question is about education. What is your position on vouchers, the school voucher program? My answer is pretty quick. I believe school vouchers are actually a scam. It's a coupon to give to the rich so that they can get some money off when they're sending their child to private school. What we need to understand is this voucher is only going to be worth a set amount of money. The average cost of private school in Texas is around $15,000 a year. Well, this voucher is not going to be worth $15,000. It may be worth about $9,000, maybe $10,000. So even if we go at the high end, you're looking at a parent who would receive a voucher, then having to come up with $5,000 to fully fund their child going to private school. Well, those individuals who are low income are not going to be able to come up with $5,000 per child. I mean, if they have 3 children, that's $15,000 extra dollars a year. So they're going to keep their kids in public school. And my thought is, and my belief is, that any money that is state money should stay within the public schools. It should not be shared with the private school industry. And, you know, it's our tax money, and our tax money needs to go towards public schools and ensuring that our public schools and our educational system is top-notch and is world-class. And the voucher system is just taking money out of public funding and putting it into the private school sector. And I don't agree with that at all. And it doesn't benefit anyone except those who can already afford to send their child to private school. So I am against the voucher system. That is something that if it ever got to my desk, it would be vetoed. So that is where I stand on that. So thank you so much, Sergio. I appreciate your question there. Let's see. Jose from Brownsville asks, why governor, why now? Thank you, Jose. I appreciate that. You know, when my husband Sergio and I, and that last question from Sergio was not my Sergio, just so y'all know. That was another Sergio. But my husband Sergio and I, when we originally sat down and discussed my running for governor, and it was a little over a year ago that we actually started discussing it, we did not plan on running until 2022, 4 years from now. And then last November happened, where I think we all remember what happened in the election last November. And then the regular and the special session happened here in the state. And when the special session happened, that was actually the straw that broke the camel's back. We spent around $900,000 in order to have a special session to speak about the bathroom bill. At the end of the day, that's what that was about. And there were a lot of other items that they discussed. I know a lot didn't come out of it. I think 2 or 3 things passed. Fortunately, the bathroom bill did not get through. And I do lay that credit to Joe Strauss, the Speaker of the House. It's unfortunate he's not coming back. I believe that even though he's a Republican, he was a Republican that had common sense about him. And that's what I truly appreciated about Joe Strauss. And that's where I think we're missing common sense with the majority of our leaders right now. But I would say that Joe Strauss had common sense to make sure that that bill did not get to the floor. And so I have to do a shout out to Joe Strauss and thank him for that. But understand that that was just the straw that broke the camel's back. We have so many issues facing our state, like education, like our water system, having clean water for the citizens of Texas. We have an issue with immigration, with women's access to health care, with the general population having access to health care, and so many other issues that to worry about a bill such as the bathroom bill, which was a bill that was created out of a non-issue. Individuals who are transgender, before this bill came up, they were already going to the bathroom that they identified with. And you know how many assault cases, because that was the big deal, if you let transgender individuals go into the other bathroom, there's going to be assaults. Well, they were already using the restroom of that they identified with. So the number of assaults that happened before this bill came up was actually zero. There is no proof that this was going to happen. And, there was no history of this happening. So it was just to rile up a base, to rile up a few people. And it was discriminatory. And as well, it's bad for the economy. Big businesses came out all over Texas and the United States and said they were 100% against this. And, and they would not come here. The Super Bowl, the NFL, other organizations such as that were rethinking if they were going to bring their events here. There were many conferences that we have that add money to local communities over a bathroom bill. And it was just ridiculous. So with that, my husband and I sat down again and we discussed it. And he actually came home one night and said, Jeffrey, I know what you've been thinking and I'm 100% behind you. We can't wait another 4 years. So here we are and we're running full steam ahead and it's been very good. It's been very good. So, all righty, moving forward. Let's see. David emailed and said, with the failure of the current administration to secure funding for Texas children and CHIP, if elected, what would be your move in order to secure the funds for generations of children to come? That is a great question. There was an article yesterday about the CHIP program and, pardon me, and they're actually, if Congress doesn't do something by, I believe it's December 22nd, the state will be sending out letters right before Christmas and letting children know that their funding is actually going to stop at the end of January in 2018 because they have not renewed the funding. So what I would do is, one, where the federal government can't step up and provide the necessary access to health care for children in the CHIP program, then the state has to set up. We have to find the money. And, pardon me. So where do we find that money? We actually have to scrub the budget. We have if I'm not mistaken, we have the sixth largest economy in the world. It's just the state of Texas. And so there is a lot of money to work with, but we also have a lot of overhead. But we need to scrub our budget. We need to start spending money where it matters most. And a lot of these pet projects need to go away. And what we need to do is say we're about education, we're about healthcare, and under healthcare, of course, follows the CHIP program or CHIP. And when elected, what I'm going to advocate for and work with the legislature is to find a way to scrub the budget so that we don't put ourselves in the hole. Because even though socially I am liberal. When it comes to spending money, when it comes to fiscal responsibility, I am quite conservative. I do not believe that you spend money that you don't have. And I don't believe in the current accounting voodoo, is what I call it, in order to make a budget look balanced. What we have to do is truly balance our budget. And we have to come up with a way. If the federal government won't do it, we will do it as a state, because it's time that we took care of the individuals within our state when it comes to healthcare. So thank you very much, David, for that. And, a little side note, over the next week, we're going to be releasing all of our policies, which detail exactly how we're going to be paying for all of these things. So we'll be doing Facebook Live events as well, and actually speak about the entire policy, such as education, immigration, and so on. So I look forward to having those one-on-one conversations with everyone as well. So moving on, let's see. Deanna asked, is state healthcare a possibility? Yes, state healthcare is a possibility. I do believe in healthcare for all. We need access to healthcare because a healthy population is a productive population. And so, pardon me, what we do is we have to look at other countries and see how they're offering healthcare for everyone. And Texas needs to be the leader in this because we have the largest population. And unfortunately, right now, we have more people uninsured per capita and percentage-wise than any other state in the union. And that is highly unacceptable, that we don't care for our population. It costs more, and this is what I need everyone to understand. It costs more to have people without health care than it would cost if we just did it up front and gave them the access and provided the access for them. Now, what we can do, and without putting us into debt, is we can do Medicaid for all. Excuse me, Medicare for all. And by doing that, we actually are able to provide people with access to health care. So when they have the flu, or when they find stage 1 cancer, as to the other extreme, flu on one end, cancer on the other, when you treat any ailment in the early stages, it is cheaper to treat it at that point than it is when someone has the flu, but they don't have access to a doctor, and they kind of cross their fingers and take something over the counter, and suddenly it's turned into pneumonia. Well, pneumonia costs a lot more to facilitate back to health than if we had just treated the flu on the front end. And the same with cancer. Someone that has stage 1 cancer, if they don't do something immediately about it and get the health care they need, and it develops into stage 3 or stage 4 cancer, it's more expensive, and we're putting people's lives at risk. And I've never understood why it suddenly became acceptable for us as a society to allow people to get sick and say, well, that's okay. And it's not okay. We're here as a society to make sure that we're all taken care of when it comes to our physical needs and our medical needs. So, I was down in, and I do apologize, we've been to so many cities, it was south of here, and someone said, well, I really don't want to have to pay for someone else's health care. And I let them know that you need to understand you're already paying for it. When someone doesn't have health insurance and they go to the ER, the hospital, okay, and let's say they can't pay for that ER visit, the hospital has to then write it off. Well, they counter the write-off, okay, by one, increasing the pricing on those of us who do have health insurance, okay? And then what does that do? It raises your premium. So you're paying partially for that ER visit that someone had to take that didn't have insurance through your premium. The other thing is there are many counties and cities in Texas that actually collect taxes for hospitals to help them with the write-offs. Here in Dallas, we have a Parkland County tax. It's part of our property tax. And so we're paying for that service for those individuals who don't have insurance. And so we're already paying for it. Wouldn't it be better if we were all chipping into the same program and getting people the health care that they need? So what we can do is we have to look at other countries and how they're doing it. We have to look at other states to see how they're doing it, like Massachusetts. California is also looking at a program as well. And so how can we take what their wheel is and tweak it to work for Texas so that everyone has access to health care? And we also need to, at the same time, when we sit down with healthcare professionals and we're sitting down with the pharmaceutical companies, we have to look at pharmaceutical pricing, and because that is just getting outrageous. We have an individual that I just heard of this morning who literally has a great job and has insurance, but the cost of his insulin is so high that he's having to actually live at home. And because he can either afford to live on his own or he can afford his insulin. And so we have to work with the pharmaceutical companies to come up with a fair plan that allows our individuals and our population in Texas, our citizens, access to fairly priced medications as well as healthcare. So that is, it is possible. One little caveat, just so you know, healthcare is not an easy fix. We have someone in DC right now who's in the White House who says healthcare can be fixed. I think he said within 24 hours of him taking office. It cannot be fixed that quickly, but it can be fixed. What you need and what we need is a leader as governor who is going to start the conversation, get the ball rolling, and get everybody on board and get everyone to think about how we can provide healthcare for all Texans, because I honestly don't think the federal government is going to get their straight and provide us the healthcare we need. So if the federal government can't do it, by God, Texas can, and we're going to start taking care of ourselves. So Deanna, thank you so much for your question. I truly appreciate that. Luann from Garland, she asked, are you dropping out now that Lupe says she's going to run? Let me start with, I don't know that Lupe's running because they ran the story she was, and then later yesterday, I believe it was yesterday afternoon, it said she wasn't, and that she hadn't resigned and so on and so forth. So we're not real sure if Lupe is running or not. Time will tell. She has until December 11th to register if she's going to run or not. But let's talk about Lupe and myself. I think it is actually spectacular that in 2017, in the state of Texas, a lesbian, Lupe, and a gay man, myself, are able to run for the highest office in the state. That is incredible. It truly is incredible that we have come this far in our society, and in Texas of all places, that the LGBT community is not a off to the side community anymore. We are in the thick of it now. And the fact that, and I believe in, if I misspeak, Lupe can correct me, but both of us are in married, committed relationships. And that's what's wonderful about this is in Texas that we can celebrate that we are diverse. And that's what we needed, and that's what we've been needing in our government is diversity. With Lupe running, I think it is wonderful if she does run. What that will do is help all Democrats, her and myself, and anyone else that is running, to center our message and bring people to the table, to have more people at the table having discussions about how we can move Texas forward. So, being able to have Lupe run with alongside with me through the primary, I look at it as a great opportunity, and I look forward to that. Now, am I going anywhere? Obviously not. I am not going to step out of this campaign simply because someone joined their own campaign and threw their hat in the ring. We are committed. We have the infrastructure. I have an incredible team of individuals working for me in the campaign. We have hundreds of volunteers already. We have been traveling this state. We have reached out to so many people. We have a great message that everyone is hearing from us, and they're excited. You know, I have to say, it is already exciting because not only are the Democrats coming out to listen and listen to us, independents are coming out, and guess who else is coming out to listen to us? The Republicans. Individuals who never voted for a Democrat in their life are coming out and meeting with us at our rallies. And they're sitting with us and letting us know that they're tired of the current state of the Republican Party. And so when we have our rally, and at the end, these individuals are coming up to us and saying, for the first time in our life, we are voting for a Democrat, and we're voting for you, Jeffrey. That says a lot. That says we're going in the right direction, and that people are listening and people are engaged. So yes, we're in it. We're in it all the way to next November. And, you know, I look forward to having all of you in Austin in January of 2019 when I get sworn in as your new governor. So thank you very much for that question, Luann. And let's see, our next question. Wow, we've already had 177 views of this video. So thank you. And we'll keep going. All righty. Joe from Plano asks, what's your take on minimum wage? I'm a small business owner and can't afford it. I'm assuming, Joe, that you're speaking about the $15 livable wage that is being promoted by the party and so on. Though I do agree that we do need a livable wage. I believe there's a better way to go about doing it and implementing a livable wage. I think $15 across the board in a state the size of Texas is going to be not advantageous for us because we do have to protect small business. So we have to look at it really county by county and find out what is a livable wage in that county. And then set the livable wage at that level for that county. We cannot say that $15 is a livable wage in downtown Austin. It just, in all honesty, it's not a livable wage in downtown Austin or Dallas or San Antonio or even Houston. So to limit it at 15, you know, people may be a little better off, but they're still not making a livable wage in your larger metro areas. At the same time, you have to look at the smaller towns in East Texas or West Texas where a livable wage of $15 might be too much. It might be too much of a livable wage, and that would hurt small business. And so we have to protect small business. If we do it county by county and then say, okay, in this county, your livable wage is really $11.50, but in this county, it's $16.50. And let's look at it across the board and work with our local governments. And that's where we need to start. And that's what we're missing with our leadership today. They aren't trying to work with the local government. They're trying to just tell the local government what to do. And that is interesting because the same people that are doing this, saying, no, we're the state, we're going to tell you what to do, are upset every time the federal government tells them what they're supposed to do at the state level. So it's like we've got two sides going here and neither one of them agree. So if you want the federal government to leave the state alone, then the state needs to leave the local entities alone. So you can't have it both ways. I believe that what we do is we work with the federal government and we also work with our local entities, our local cities, towns, villages, and so on, so that we can come to an agreement where we all agree on what's best for that area of Texas. Because again, Texas is a very large state. We're so diverse. And we have to acknowledge that and then work with it rather than working against it. So Joe, thank you very much for that. But believe me, as a small business owner myself, I am well aware of the what am I trying to use? The implications, sorry. sometimes your brain just doesn't go there. All righty, but the implications of what $15 would do to a small business, and our goal is not to hurt or to set up a barrier for a small business, especially to set up a barrier that could actually cause a small business to fail. So thank you very much. So Riley from Fort Worth asks, is the bathroom bill coming back? Well, if you put Abbott and Patrick back in, yes, it's coming back. Understand that the bill didn't make it during the special session or the regular session this year. But in 2019, if we put the same people in office, it's coming back. And this time, because Joe Strauss has announced he's not running. So we don't know who's going to be in that House Speaker position, so the Speaker of the House position. So it may be someone that agrees with Dan Patrick and Greg Abbott, and then it gets pushed through. And that bill is just so ridiculous, because part of the bill is that you have to go to the bathroom, which is on your birth certificate. How many of us carry around our birth certificate? I'm hard pressed to think that most of us would have to go search for our birth certificate, much less have it in our wallet. And who is actually going to guard the bathrooms? And who's going to be the ID checker when you go into a restroom to see if you're going into the one they feel you should be going into? So it's a ridiculous bill, but in all honesty, yes, it is coming back if we put the same people back in. And Riley, I agree with your concern. I'm understanding based on the question that you hope it doesn't, but understand too that when I'm governor, if anything like the bathroom bill, anything that discriminates against any segment of our community, any segment, will be vetoed immediately. I will not push for that. I will not have it. And it's time that the governor stood up and said, we don't promote discriminatory policies. We promote inclusion. Speaking about inclusion, our governor during the special session, when someone didn't agree with him, he made a list of people, the bad list, about people he was going to go after because they didn't agree with him, or they didn't do what they didn't do what he wanted them to do. That is not leadership. That is not leadership in the least. And what you need and what we need in Texas is a governor who reaches across the aisle and gives everyone a voice, because the person that is standing there, whether they're Democrat or Republican, they were elected by the individuals within their district, and they have the right to represent those people that elected them. And as governor, being elected by the state of Texas, I have to make sure that they have a voice. And so we have to bring people together. You don't make lists of people that didn't agree with you, and you actually get things done that way. You come to resolution, and that's what we're missing in down in Austin right now. I mean, they had a brawl during the special session right on the legislator's floor, excuse me. So, this is what our government has come to. We're going to have brawls. We're going to make lists of people we don't like. This isn't governing. This isn't governing at all. And that's why it's going to stop. And it's going to stop when I'm inaugurated in January of 2019. So thank you very much. All righty. Okay, just so you know, most of our questions are actually coming through to us from Ask Jeffrey at jeffreyfortexas.com. So I believe I want to say thank you for doing that. It's been actually wonderful. And that you can also ask questions I want you to know you can ask questions in the comments section that is on here. So be sure, if you want to ask a quick question and you're watching this, you can type it in the comments section. Or since it seems to be the popular way to do it, you can actually just email askjeffrey@jeffreyfortexas.com. Whatever works for you. All righty. So next up we have Tina from Salado. She asked, we're a red state. My vote for you isn't going to count anyway. Well, Tina, love you and thank you, but that is incorrect. understand that the state office of governor, lieutenant governor, and so on down the line, a state level office, it's a popular vote. It is not by district. You don't have to pick up electoral college votes, such as in the presidential race, where it's an all for nothing type thing. In Texas, when you vote, your vote does count. And, and I have to say this, we're not as red a state as people think we are. We're just a non-voting state. We had the constitutional amendment, about a month ago? And it was around 6% of registered voters voted. 6%. In the last gubernatorial election, when it was between Abbott and Davis, pardon me, we were at around 29% of eligible voters voted. That's who decided who your next governor was. What we need to do is, and what we're working towards, and what we've been working towards, is making sure everyone knows your vote really does count. It counts in the state of Texas. And, if you can't vote on election day, do the early voting option, because that is extended over about a 2.5 week period. And you can go at your leisure and vote at that time. So either early vote or vote on the day of the election. But no matter what you do, vote. Your vote will count. And it will count because if you vote and you speak to 10 of your friends who didn't vote in the last election because they didn't think it mattered, and all 11 of you at that point vote, and then they get 10 friends to vote, and they get 10 friends to vote, then we change the dynamics of what is happening in this state because your vote counts. Never think your vote doesn't count. Never think that a Democrat can't win, because we're going to win. We're going to turn Texas blue. Look what happened in Virginia. Look what happened in New Jersey. The blue wave is coming, and it's coming in 2018. And Tina, you can be a part of it by voting. You and your friends and your family, everybody, get out and vote and encourage people. I've always said, whoever you're going to vote for, vote. Yes, I would love for you to all vote for me, but no matter what, vote. And Tina, your vote will count this year. And I hope what I do over the next year is earn your trust and earn your vote. And then you get out there and you actually do vote, because that is the one key element to democracy that is so wonderful, is that we have the ability to vote. So make sure, Tina, that you do vote. All righty. Let's see. Do we have any other questions? Let's see. Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. I had to scroll down. My apologies, y'all. All righty. Rob in the Woodlands. How do you plan to secure our borders? Well, currently right now, our borders are secure to a point. We do need to invest more in making sure that our borders are secure. I am an advocate for making sure we have secure borders. However, at the same time, I believe that because it is actually a border, not a Texas-Mexico border, but a United States-Mexico border, that the federal government needs to step up, and they need to start paying more of their share of protecting our border and ensuring that we have a truly protected border. Now, most people ask me about the wall at this point, the wall that Trump has been speaking about for over a year now, maybe even 2 years. The wall is not going to stop individuals. It's a $20 billion price tag. And quite honestly, I can think of about 20 billion other things that I would rather spend that money on. And understand that a wall, we currently have fencing up and so on. But a wall is not going to be any better than what we currently have. Because a wall people can go over, a wall people can go under, or they can go to the Gulf of Mexico and just go around it. So the wall is a good talking point, but in all honesty, that's all it is. It's a talking point. It's not a solution. What we need to do is beef up what we already have. We need to ensure that the men and women who are down there protecting our border have exactly what they need in order to successfully do their job at securing our border. And we also need to make sure that when we're working with Mexico, that we're working as well with the NAFTA, that we're being fair so that individuals feel like they can stay in Mexico and make a good living and not have to come across illegally to Texas or to any of the other border states. So if we work with Mexico, and again, what this is doing is we're dealing with the issue on the front end rather than trying to fix it on the back end. So we establish better ties and better relationships with Mexico so that their economy is booming, as well as ensuring, and always ensuring, first and foremost, that the Texas economy is booming. Now, the undocumented individuals who are currently here in Texas, there's estimated to be about 2.2 million. We need to ensure that we work with the federal government. And as governor, I will be going to DC and banging on doors and hollering and screaming at our representatives to stop kicking the immigration issue down the road, because that's what they've been doing, kicking this can down the road. And what we need to do, pardon me, is get them to create a policy to allow a pathway to citizenship for those who are here. 2.2 million undocumented individuals in Texas. They're estimating about 11 million across the whole United States. So you're not going to be able to drive around in a bus and pick people up and take them back to the country from which they came. You're just not going to be able to do that. It's too many. It's been kicked down the road so far that we can't fix it now, other than to create policies so that we have a better immigration policy moving forward, but then offering a solution to those who are already here and who have been here for 15, 20, 25, 30 years they've been here. The last person that offered amnesty was Ronald Reagan, the Republican. He's the one that offered. He was the last one to offer it. And it's interesting to me that when Ronald was doing it, everyone was for it. But now that we're looking at this again, because we didn't have immigration reform at that time, that now it's being discussed, and now it's a hugely awful Democrat idea. But let's remember that the last person to do it was Ronald Reagan. He was a Republican. So remember that, and understand that as governor, I will be working with the federal government to make sure they're paying their fair share, to make sure our border is secure, and they need to be pitching in more money because it is a national boundary. It's not just a state boundary. And then two, working with Congress and the U.S. Congress and ensuring that we stop kicking this immigration can down the road and that we actually come up with a solution and make it happen and make it work. So thank you for your question. Let's see, is that Melina in Houston asks, what are we going to do with the areas like Houston with more hurricanes and more storms coming in the future? Yes, Melina, first of all, we need to, as a government and as a society, actually say climate change is real and believe that climate change is real, because it is. And we had a horrific storm such as Harvey. Then I believe it was Irma that hit Florida. And then Puerto Rico was hit as well, which has devastated them. But speaking to Houston, what we need to do is work with, first of all, the scientists who actually know how climate change is going to affect us in the future. And then listen to the recommendations on how we can improve our infrastructure, especially along the coast, pardon me, so that we can secure ourselves again on the front end when it's cheaper than trying to pick up the pieces on the back end. What we have allowed in the past is our developers to just develop wherever the heck they wanted to, with no true course of action on, is this even safe? Is it safe for our citizens? And no one ever thought about it, or no one ever did anything about it. So what we need to do is work with our scientists. How is climate change going to affect us? And to make a point, not just along the coastal areas, but we need to know, how is climate change going to affect our crops, which are in West Texas and East Texas and so on. Because climate change is going to affect our crop. It's already happening. It's affecting the growth of our crops because of rain, either too much or too little, and so on. So we have to look at the full spectrum with our scientists. Then we need to work with engineers so that in cities like Houston and Beaumont, Port Arthur, and so on, that those engineers know or can share with us how we can develop our infrastructure so that if a hurricane hits, that we're not suffering and losing as much property and as many lives as we have lost in the past due to hurricanes. So working with the scientists, working with engineers, working on the front end of things so that as we're rebuilding in these areas right now along the coastal line of Texas, that we're actually rebuilding in a manner that we're not rebuilding again if a hurricane hits next year or even the next year. Because the hurricanes that are hitting us are becoming stronger because the water temperature is warmer. And when water temperature is warmer, hurricanes get up to higher categories. So knowing that and working with scientists, working with engineers, we can actually come together and have a solution as to how we can handle climate change. So thank you very much for your question. Now, I need to let everybody know that you can, excuse me, you can actually watch this entire video once we log off, because we're going to log off here in a few minutes. The Facebook will actually generate the video, and then it'll be up and running, I'd say, within the hour. So it can be rewatched later on for those of you who couldn't join us earlier today. And we ask everyone that if you'll watch the entire video, if you just logged in or if you logged in later once we started, we did have someone asked, Chess is asked about healthcare. Is that on the agenda for today? We actually covered that earlier. So once we stop the taping today, it will actually repost the video, and so you can watch it and see what I say about healthcare. So Chess, thank you very much for that question. Last question, it was actually through an email, JD in El Paso. How do I get a yard sign and a t-shirt? Okay, JD, it's very easy. If you go to jeffreyfortexas.com, you will go to the contribution page, and from there, it'll show you the thank you gifts that we have selected for you. There's yard signs, there's t-shirts and hats, buttons, bumper stickers, etc., coffee mugs. There's a, I don't remember what you call it, but it's the silver one that keeps your coffee hot. A tumbler, I think it's called. Okay, even my staff is laughing at me. But yes, it's, one of those big tumbler things. But if you log on to Jeffrey for Texas, you can see all the gifts that we have as thank you gifts for your contributions. So please log on and look at that. And I do want to say that if you are new to video, I'm sorry. We have a new video that uploaded today on Facebook and YouTube at Jeffrey for Texas. It's showing off all the thank you items as well. So if you want to log on to YouTube and or Facebook, since you're already on Facebook, you can also see the actual items there as well. And know that everything that is contributed between now and Christmas I have two very dear friends of mine who have actually said they will match your funds up to $50,000 each person. So if you donate, for a round figure, if you donate $50, I have two friends that will match that $50. So your $50 just became $150 to the campaign, which gets us further down the road so that we can meet more people and get our message out there. So between now and Christmas, whatever you whatever you contribute will actually be tripled. So it's a great time to contribute to the campaign, because your donation is actually amplified 3 times. So thank you so much for doing that. And let's see, I want to thank everyone who logged in to our live stream. Again, we're doing this every Friday at noon Central Time for an hour each Friday. I won't always be in the war room at the campaign office, but sometimes we're going to be on the road. So you never know what the scenery will be behind me. So again, if you want to ask a question, you can always go to Ask Jeffrey at jeffreyfortexas.com and send an email there at any time, and we'll review it and bring it up at the next Friday's live with Jeffrey. Let's see. Oh, and today, real quick, I wanted to, I don't think, can y'all see that? I have, let me stand up a little bit. There you go. My red pen, my red ribbon, because today is World AIDS Day. So this is the day that we remember all of those who have been affected with during the AIDS crisis. And, you know, a lot of them were friends of mine way back in the 80s and 90s, and even currently. And so it is a day of remembrance. So I would like to just have a moment where we recognize all of those individuals, because in all honesty, we truly did lose a generation due to the AIDS epidemic that happened. And at some point today, I think everyone or most people know someone that has been affected with the AIDS epidemic. So, you know, think about them. And so thank you very much. And I just want to say that it has been a fun first hour with everyone. We look forward to doing this again a week from now. And also understand that we'll be doing more live shows when we start releasing our policies in the next few weeks. So you'll want to join us for that as well. And so again, thank you so much. And it has been wonderful. And if you have questions, please reach out to us, and we will see y'all next week. Well, we'll probably see you sooner, but on this show, we'll actually see you next week. So thank y'all very much. Y'all have a great day.